Guys, welcome to another gripper training session. Today we're gonna do a couple of things. First, I already did 2 warm-up sets with a set of 5 repetitions with my CoC trainer, which is still my warm-up gripper, and I think it's still the best because it gives you a decent resistance to get your tendons and everything warmed up, but it doesn't provide you so much resistance that you already feel like being tired after a set of or two of warming up with such a gripper. And what we're going to do then is, of course, work on closing the 1.5 in my left hand, which is still my goal, to be able to do this. And later on, we're trying to do something freaky today. I'm trying to close, or let's say squeeze, the number 2 in my right hand as much as possible. But everything after my left hand training, which is important to me, because this definitely needs to needs to be trained and needs to catch up with my right hand. And you definitely feel it strength-wise that you lose a bit if you stop training with grippers, but it's also necessary sometimes, because once you have really worked on the tendons a lot and you have damaged the fibers, it really takes some time to recover. So you can definitely see it's a whole body exercise basically. If you're training grippers, it's training your traps, your chest, your shoulders, your biceps, obviously, your forearms, and also your finger muscles. That's really no joke. And also your abdominals and your obliques. It's what I personally found out. So let's do a break again, half a minute. And once we gotten to the point where I personally think that I cannot really train with my left hand anymore, we're gonna switch over to the right and try to close the 2, which is something I haven't achieved so far. But let's just see, because the 2 is quite hard to close actually. I would say that the gap between the 1.5 here and the 2 is huge, and you can also see it in the spread of the handles, that there's a huge difference between those 2. Now this one looks almost new, because I haven't really used it so far. So this will be something new today. There it was, closed. My chalk block is almost gone by training the whole time. But the good thing is really, if you have such a chalk block and you almost only use it for your max lifts or gripper training, that you can really use it for a very long time before you have to buy a new one. So there you can see it, by the way, it's the 1.5. So I think one more set or one more try with the left, and then we move down and do a couple of repetitions. Couple of repetitions with the 0.5. Before we try something with the right hand. So one more try here with the 1.5. That's it. That's it, guys. So let's rest a bit. So today is a good day. So when you come home from work and you're tired and you're not fit for a whole body workout, but you still got something left and nothing else to do, I would highly recommend training with grippers, training your grip in general, but especially grippers, because they are not so tiring in terms of exhausting your whole body, but of course they take a lot out of you, especially out of your forearms and your hands, obviously. So you need a lot of time to recover after training with these. Some people say power twisters, or actually one person commented on my channel under one of my videos and said training with power twisters is even more exhausting than training with grippers. Well, it depends, I guess. It depends what your goals are, and it depends how fast you recover in certain body parts. But I can definitely say that my chest, my shoulders and my arms recover way faster than my fingers and my forearms, for example. So it really depends, because with grippers, as I said, obviously you're incorporating all of these other muscle groups, but you are specifically targeting and isolating the fingers and your forearm muscles. So those are relatively small muscles, and they need much more time to recover than those big muscles which are always used throughout the day, like shoulders, for example. Well, you might not be able to hit a one rep max every day, of course, especially not after a shoulder training session, but still you could theoretically train shoulders every day, of course with a different training regimen. For example, one day a max effort training, another day a hyperset volume training, and then you could go back to something normal like bodybuilding, and only rest one day in between, for example, which is not possible with grippers. So yeah, just for you to know. And that was the trainer, right? So okay, let's take the 0.5 and do some reps. 4, No, I would definitely say that the gap between the 1.5 and the number 2 is huge. Now everybody could theoretically master the 1.5, but most people really stop training grippers once they reach their goal of closing the 2. And that is simply because it takes so much time and so much effort put in to close the 2. Now, what I would definitely say is that if you can pull double overhand, 200 kg, which is of course one of my goals in strength sports, right? Then you can definitely close the 2 or have a great chance at closing the 2. I would never say that something is absolutely guaranteed because there's never a 100% carryover, but still we know for a fact that if you do double overhand deadlifting in particular, there's a huge carryover to other grip events. And deadlifting helped me a lot in closing grippers. So for a time, you guys may already know, if you remember, I had a lot of trouble closing the 0.5 even for 1 rep in my right hand. There was a time when I couldn't do it, and so I had to move back down to the trainer, which I was then of course able to close, and not only for one time but for a couple of times in a row. But it took really a lot out of me to proceed and to master the 0.5. So when I mastered the 0.5, I then wanted to close the 1. So closing the 1 in my right hand was a huge thing. Then I mastered that, and eventually also in my left hand. So I would say that I can get 3 to 5 reps out of it in my right hand, and maybe 2 to 3 reps in my left hand if I have a good day, right? So when I then achieved that goal, I was obviously very excited, and I was proud of myself. And then the next step was closing the 1.5, which I eventually did in my right hand, but not in my left hand. So now my left hand needs to catch up, but it's very hard because now I've come to a point where even moving on in my right hand seems unlikely. So therefore, guys, never give up, but also respect the fact that once you achieved a certain level, moving up in resistance, moving the next big gripper, not moving, but closing the next big gripper is a huge thing. And of course, once you put your eye on closing the 3, for example, moving the 3 becomes a thing, because I right now cannot even move the number 3. That's how much of a difference there is between the 2 and the 3 now. It's crazy. Again, 4 reps. Whew. So, what we're going to do now is we're going to warm up the right hand, which hasn't been used for gripper training for a while. And that is because I wanted my left hand to catch up. That's simply the reason why. So the trainer. Yeah, it feels much more natural, but that's normal. It's insane how much more natural it feels to close it in your right hand. And that's sort of the thing that annoys me so much. I mean, you can put it in your left hand, you can really set it and pay attention to every little detail, but even then, closing it doesn't feel natural at all if you are right-handed. And some people say even if you are left-handed, it doesn't feel the same way in both hands, and that's why they produce the left turn gripper, which is specifically made for left-handers, right? So, another warm-up. Look, I do not even have to set it. That's how much more natural it feels in my right hand. Even if I put the trainer in my left hand, I'm still sort of messing it up here in my hand because I feel it's so unnatural having it here in my left hand. Now the squeeze doesn't feel too bad, but setting it right is a whole different story. So there you can really see that it really depends on how you are wired, if you are right-handed or left-handed. And yeah, you should of course pay more attention to your stronger hand, but then again, as I have said previously in so many other videos, you cannot even set it, so set the higher gripper, your goal gripper, for your right hand if your left hand isn't strong enough. Now I might be able to do a light set here on the number 2, but I would definitely not be able to do it on the 2.5 or 3, because I cannot even move it with my right hand. Even if I put the 3 in my hands and place my left hand like this on it, that it's stable, and if I'm then trying to squeeze it like that, it wouldn't move. So how am I expecting it to move without the set? So here we go, the number 2. The first time ever trying really to close it in my right hand. Now I'm going to set it, of course. That's how much I can set it. So quite a bit, but not so much. This feels like a brick, guys. And that's the number 2. That's insane grip strength. Now closing the 2 is insane. It's really insane. Now if there are people who can close the 3, that is even crazier. And of course there are people who can close the 3 and can close it in a credit card set. So once again, let's see. It even hurts so much here on my thumb pad that I'm definitely not not ready for it. I can definitely say I'm not ready for it at all, and I'm gonna put this aside. So that was basically my first time ever really trying to squeeze it as much as I can. So let's go back to the left hand then. So at the 0.5, yes. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm trying to get more reps out of it in my left hand. More reps out of the 0.5 later on. So not obviously today, but later. And then I'm also trying to move up on my repetitions on the 1. That's basically it. So here we go. One last set. That's it. Yeah, grippers are really a thing, guys. You have to constantly be training them, but on the other hand you cannot, simply because it's targeting so many small muscles in your body and not the big ones which are used to be permanently used. So okay, see you guys.